Welcome everybody to Aledius Sports Talk. I am your host, Enrique Aledius, and today we're going to be looking back at Week 14, seeing a couple of the big stories that went on and some of the big games that happened. Lots to dive into here, so let's go. So start off with the Raiders against the Rams. I mean, that was a big game by Baker coming in, right? Like the guy barely had any time to practice with the team. The majority of the game, the Raiders were taking control of it all. I thought Devontae Adams was cooking early. You know, he had that amazing one-handed grab. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, for all the, he talks a big game and he's an amazing defender. But I think this year he's kind of gotten cooked on a bunch of plays throughout the year. Devontae Adams, that one-handed grab, and then again he was in double coverage. I think Adams was doing really well this game, but what I thought was kind of weird though was like after the first half, he had that first catch in the first half. Like I said, he caught that one in double coverage, and then there was this, they just stopped throwing to him, and it was just after the first half, it was just weird that they kind of fell flat, right? I thought that and maybe it was Josh McDaniels playing conservative, or maybe the Rams found a way to stop them, but it was just interesting. It's kind of weird that the Raiders just didn't really go to Adams anymore. I thought this is a game that they should have just come out and rolled over them. They should have blown the doors off of the Rams, right? Given that they didn't have their starting QB. Who knows what was going to happen with Baker Mayfield? Wolford, I think, was starting. If I remember correctly, but really it was the Rams, right? It was like Baker Mayfield comes in, and he was the one who gave the Rams trouble. He was the one who gave them, or he's the one who gave the Raiders trouble. He gave the Rams the juice. It was, similar to Brock Purdy, except, just in the sense that Baker comes in. Baker's more experienced for sure. Clearly than Brock Purdy. Experienced in meaningful minutes. I think that's a huge thing too. When you have meaningful minutes in the NFL, that comes into play, and I think you saw that clearly when everyone was talking about how Baker didn't really even know the plays, right? He didn't even know he was studying the playbook on the plane right over, but you need time and you need weeks and practice to be able to go through it all and get comfortable with your receivers, and he was able to pull off what he was able to pull off by just showing up and kind of listening to McVay. And so credit to Sean McVay too. I think that's a huge credit to his part to be able to lead Baker, especially on that 98-yard drive down the field there. So all around, I think he played really well. Especially given that it's his first game in a while, he played really well. That was pretty fun to see. But I think, on the Raiders side of it, I just think there were so many times I thought that the Raiders could have ran away with this game. There was that big one was when they recovered the fumbled ball at the end of the second, and then they had the ball at the red zone, right? The Raiders had the ball at the end zone. Then Derek Carr throws this lob right up. It was just right up into the secondary, and it was just intercepted. I don't know if it was tipped. I don't know if it looked like it was tipped or whatever, but maybe there was just one Raider in there. I think it was Hollins. I think he was in there. But it did look like he was getting bumped, but a lot of respect for Carr. Good human, all that stuff. He's really talented as a QB, but in that time, in that situation, as a starting QB, you cannot be making those decisions, especially as a team that has to they have to get it. They have to get it done. They have to make a run for this, and for him to, I think I'm not trying to put it all on Carr, but it's those plays that you just can't have. You can't have a way. You can't walk away from fumbling the ball at the end of that half, or getting the fumble at the end of the half, coming up with no points, right? You can't walk away from that drive with 0 points. I think that was a big turning point, in my opinion, in that game. I think that once that happened, it was okay. I think the Rams were let's go. I think we have a chance, and they were in it. They were always kind of within striking distance the entire game, so they always had that level of confidence. And then on the other side of that, right, Baker was heating up. Now, he got sacked and some underthrows a little bit here and there, but I mean that's expected. Again, he didn't play that much beforehand, so but for the most part, I thought he looked good, right? And you got to give him credit again, hanging in there. His arm looked good. He looked mobile. He was able to sling the ball for a couple of throws. That was pretty impressive. The whole game, I think the Raiders were just. It looked like the Raiders had full control of the game, or at least majority control of the game. To me, it looked like they were on their way to close it out, right? Like until that final drive, it kind of, my opinion, it was like the Raiders are going to win this, but the Rams are right there. The Raiders are going to win this, the Rams are right there. Oh, they don't make it to the end zone, it's okay. They're still going to end up winning this, but the Rams are right there. They better watch out. And it wasn't until like that final 6-7 minutes you started to see like, what is going on? Like, I think the Rams can do this, and then, right, like under 5 to go, just like Brady. Like everyone talks about that, just like Brady. Under 5 to go, down 16-3. Baker was on point with all his passes. Right, he was able to drive them down the field. He's able to do what he needed to do. Raiders not able to make that goal line stop and then go 3 and out with a chance to close a game. That's a problem, right? Like under 5 to go, you gotta go close out the game. You gotta at least extend your drive so that you don't give the ball back to the Rams. That didn't happen. And then that unsportsmanlike conduct, that flag, like I thought the call was pretty soft. Like that was I just thought that was pretty soft of them to call that. But again, the refs called it. It is what it is. The Raiders had bigger problems, I think, than just that. They had bigger problems than just that flag. They couldn't stop them at all. Like so many times this year too. Like so many times, they were giving up large point leads. I think 7 out of 8 losses were 1-score losses. I think they mentioned in the broadcast. And you can look to the coaching for sure. I think that's the big issue. I think coaching, Josh McDaniels. I'm a Brady fan, so I've watched New England for a long time, and of course, the Brady and Josh McDaniels. That's one of those amazing duos in terms of coaching and all that. But like, Josh McDaniels has to be able to finally lead his team into closing out these games, and it just hasn't happened this year. And that's a big. When you've got Derek Carr, again, coming into this year, seen as a starter, but you got Devontae Adams, you got Josh Jacobs. Your defense plays pretty well for the most part. Like, there was so much expectation that this team was really gonna go, and when you have all the pieces together and it doesn't come through, and the way they lose, I think that's also an important part of it to look at. Is like, it's the way they're losing, right? It's not just like they're losing right from the get-go or whatever, but it's these 1-point close games. And I think sometimes it just comes down to coaching, right? I think that coaching, having the right scheme in place, having the correct, having everyone on the same page. I think that sometimes is a big part of it. It's just that, and again, you also have to look at the players. Execution's huge, or the lack of in this case. It's a tough situation for the Raiders. I think, they needed this win. They needed that win to really stay in it, move on to the playoff hunt. But again, credit to Baker, man. Credit to that team. Credit to Rams. There wasn't really a whole lot to play for, but they still came away with a huge win. So who knows? I think from reading the news and all that stuff that Baker is going to be the guy moving forward. It makes complete sense. Good win for him. And what a game! What a game for the Rams there. Definitely full credit to Baker and Sean McVay. That was a hell of a job. We also had the Steelers go against the Ravens. This was a big game, I think, for both teams in terms of injuries too. Pickett leaves the game early. There's a tackle from Roquan Smith that happened. That's huge. I think he's like poised to be the future of the organization. I have to look into, I'm not sure, I should have probably done more research here. I don't know the extent of the injury. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but regardless of that, he's out. And I think that's a blow to the Steelers. They were getting that momentum coming into this game. And I think that they were going up against a Raiders team that, they were really shorthanded, right? You don't have Lamar, and Lamar is a very, very big part of the Ravens offense. It's a very big part of just the overall scheme. Huntley he's similar to Lamar in the sense that he can move around like him and stuff like that, but not to the level that Lamar can do it. I don't think he has the same arm as Lamar. There's just a different type of game there. And even, when Huntley's playing J.K. Dobbins, this game he was incredible. 120 yards, rushing. Really big game from him, and that's what you need from the Ravens when Lamar's out, right? Like you need people like J.K. Dobbins to step up. But again, like you have a team like the Ravens basically coming into this game, a lot of question marks just with the injuries and how they've been playing the past couple of games and things like that. And the Steelers were kind of on the opposite, where they were starting to get a rhythm going. They were getting good wins, and they were stacking them up there and getting into that rhythm. And Pickett leaving the game, Trubisky coming in, and Trubisky, he did pretty well, right? He threw for 276 yards, which is not bad, but he did have 3 interceptions. And he was 22 of 30. Having that, like those 3 interceptions, those giveaways, that puts it on that makes it kind of tough, right? That makes it kind of tough for the Steelers to really capitalize, and when you give the ball that many times, it's never a good thing. And again, having a big game by Dobbins on the Ravens side, the Ravens defense comes up big, like I mentioned, again 3 interceptions, but you could just tell that they were really putting the pressure on Trubisky. And it worked, right? I think that Roquan Smith had a hell of a game. I think Roquan really stepped up a lot. It was also good to see on the Ravens side also Deshaun Jackson, a couple of catches. Wasn't anything major, right? It wasn't like he didn't have crazy production, but he had enough to help the team out, which I thought was great. But speaking of injuries, the biggest question is on the Ravens side now is Tyler Huntley leaves the game. Right. And that one is a big issue too, because you're out Lamar and you're out Huntley, right? This is huge, right? Because how do you move forward with the Ravens? They're making a push for the playoffs. I mean, with they won this game, and so they're first in their division with I think they're tied with the Bengals. They have equal records there, but like Bengals have the Bucks next, and I think the Bengals are probably going to win that game. Bucks are just a little off right now. So who's going to step up for the Ravens? And my question too is, how are they going to, they play the Browns next, so at least that's good news, where Deshaun Watson's not playing that well. And so that might be a good game, at least for the Ravens to be able to take advantage of that. But moving forward, right? And I don't know how long Lamar is out. I was going to see if I can look that up, but I don't know how long Lamar is out, and if he's out for any extended period of time here. So as of when I'm recording this video, Lamar Jackson still remains out of practice. Huntley is limited. That's the thing, right? Like, how do you kind of deal with not having not just your all-star quarterback out for you for who knows how long, but then you also have your backup who well liked, that also he's pretty well versed into the system. He's out too. So that's going to be a tough deal for the Ravens to try to manage. I think if they can get Huntley to kind of get him all set and ready to go, maybe he'll be able to make it for Sunday's game. But I think, and again, yeah, so Huntley is not ruled out according to Cleveland.com. That's somewhat good news for the Ravens, but we'll see, right? I think that the Ravens right now, they're a team that, like, do I see them making it far into the playoffs? I think only as once they get Lamar back, right? It's just hard for me to see them beating like the Bengals, right? Or a lot of the teams in the AFC. Like, how are they going to do that without Lamar? Their defense can only do so much. You can only mask those the lack of a quarterback for so many drives or whatever. Once you do that for a couple of times, I think teams will catch on to what the backup QBs start doing, and it's a tough call. It's a tough situation for them, but hopefully they can get it figured out. Hopefully they get it sorted out there. But I think Well, let me check their schedule. I think that the upcoming games they have. So they got the Browns, the Falcons, the Steelers again, and then the Bengals. I think the if they can just hold them off, and if Lamar can come back before the Bengals game, that would be good, or maybe even before the Steelers game on January 1st. But I think the Browns and the Falcons, those are games where those aren't really two great teams right now. So that's kind of good news for the Ravens. But again, if you're putting in your third string quarterback, hopefully Huntley comes back. But if it's got to be your third string quarterback, then you gotta they're gonna have to really adjust and adapt to that. But I trust that John Harbaugh will, he'll figure this all out. He's an amazing coach, and this is not something that I don't think anyone's panicking. I think it's just one of those where a tough situation for them to deal with, and already that their team has struggled this year, keeping leads, maintaining leads, and really closing out games like they should. And on paper, they are a very, very strong team, and just out there on the field, they just got to go out and execute. And when you're missing your guy like Lamar, it makes it a little tougher. So, but yeah, I think that they're, again, strong win by them. I think tough break for both teams, right? Pickett with the Steelers, Huntley with the Ravens, but that's unfortunately how it goes. And we've seen a lot of injuries this year, a lot of quarterback injuries. It's been really, I don't know. It's been kind of scary on some of these injuries. Like Russell Wilson was a tough injury. Hopefully at least with Lamar's injury, it's nothing serious. It's not like Von Miller was out with that. I believe his ACL. So hopefully with Lamar, it's nothing too serious, that he can come back when the playoffs start. Now I want to talk about the Eagles against the Giants. This was for Eagles fans such a satisfying win, I think, for Eagles fans. This one was a great win for them. They just blew out the Lions. I thought they blew the doors off the the Giants. Excuse me. Talk about the Lions later, but I thought they blew the doors off of the Giants there. And it's one of those games where, again, you look at the Eagles and you're like, man, who's gonna stop these guys, right? Like who could possibly stop Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders? The defense is incredible. This game they had 7 sacks. 7 sacks by the Eagles defense. I think overall, even Brian Daboll said it, like they just got beat handedly. Right? That was one team imposing their will against another at their own home. That was the big game. That was a big statement game by the Eagles. It's nice to see the Eagles and Giants, rivalry back to where it was a couple years back ago, and they're both are pretty good teams. But again, the defensive game for the Eagles was huge. 7 sacks, right? Go down the line. Brandon Graham had 3 sacks. Huge game by him. Fletcher Cox a sack. Milton Williams had a sack. Hassan Reddick had a sack. Josh Sweat had a sack. So I think overall, I don't know, what you do to kind of stop the Eagles at this point. Their offensive game's just impressive. Their defensive game is right there too. It's Jalen Hurts back there. And I think as long as they just keep staying healthy, they have a really, really good shot to make a deep run for this. Like Jalen Hurts again, he 217 yards. He had one rushing touchdown. And that toss to Devontae Smith was insane. I thought that was such an insane throw. It kind of just seeps it right in there. And I think one of the big highlights, I think, for me watching the Eagles and especially over the course of this season is that connection between Hurts and AJ Brown. It's only getting stronger as the season goes by. You need that, right? Like there's that 1-2 punch for them. With AJ Brown, then you got Miles Sanders too. Like Miles Sanders with these up the gut kind of plays, they just come in big for red zone situations, right? Because you can either, if you're playing against the Eagles, you can look at it and go, oh, okay, well, Jalen Hurts he can run it, right? He can run that thing through, so you got to watch out for him. But then so can Miles Sanders, and Jalen Hurts can also heave that thing. So then if AJ Brown gets open, it's just all around, almost just. I'm excited to this team just has it's, in my opinion, looks almost like the Bills, where they're deep. They're a deep team. They got a lot of weapons and a lot of ways to really get you. They're not just a one-dimensional team. Because again, Jalen Hurts back there, he can run it. He can throw the ball. He's got good receivers. So it's one of those things where I think, and it all starts back to with the coach, right? It starts with Nick Sirianni. Like he's the guy where he created this culture, and then everyone talks about culture, but he created this culture, this team culture, and this attitude, and his own attitude too. It's incredible, right? Like they all believe in this guy. Like, and you even see it, right? You just see and also Nick Sirianni is just as important to the culture as the rest of the players too. Like you see it when they scored a touchdown. I think it was a Devontae Smith touchdown, and he's like running down the sidelines, so excited, and it's things like that. Like those things are important because when you see that the team is fully bought in, the coach is fully bought in, and when everyone's on that same page, that's dangerous for other teams to deal with, right? Because it's they're all together, they're all like, they're all holding each other accountable. There's no ego there, and it's it's a fun thing to see. And again, I look forward to kind of seeing what else the Eagles do in the upcoming rest of the season, and hopefully they'll carry it on into the playoffs. That should be exciting to watch. On the other hand, though, now you look at the Giants, and I heard this somewhere, and get tossed around of like, are the Giants frauds? And I wouldn't really agree with that they're frauds. I think that's a little bit extreme, but I think that they do need to go back to their identity as a team, right? They're a team that relies on Saquon, and anytime they get away from that, or a team is able to stop Saquon, that's when the Giants don't find success. Saquon this game only had 28 rushing yards, and that's just. I have to look back. I don't know if he was hurt, but that's really not a good sign for the Giants. Like, you don't want to have your guy, right, your top guy, only rush for 28 yards. I don't think that they can find success that way. So, we'll see what the Giants do and how they come back and how they adjust. I think that let me just check their next game. They're facing the Commanders, right? Oh yeah, the Commanders are that rematch. So that should be a big game. And the Commanders looking for a playoff push also, so that's a huge game for them. Sunday night football there, so that's gonna be big, and we'll see. Like we'll see what the Giants do. Hopefully they can make those adjustments because I just think that they need to really rely on that rush game with Saquon and have him be the focal point. Of course, like if they're not up or if they're trailing, you're not always going to run the ball, and you're going to have to throw it more often. But I just think that in the grand scheme of things and the way that they've been able to find success this season is through Saquon, and it's through that identity of them being, a rush heavy team, but also when they do have to make the throws and they do have to, pass the ball, it's very like Daniel Jones has to be able to take care of the ball, and it's not like they're doing anything crazy type plays or whatever. It's very simple, find his his check downs and find his reads and get there. It's not like he's not trying to be, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes out there, So yeah, but I think that the Giants, they have we have 4 weeks left in the season, and we'll see what they do and we'll see what they come up with. But it should be interesting. But as far as the Eagles go, I mean, they just seem unstoppable, and it's fun to watch, and I'm really happy for Nick Sirianni and the rest of the team, and Jalen Hurts too. I followed him since he was in Alabama. That's it's pretty awesome to see how far he's come and see him have all the success that he is having. So that's a pretty cool thing. All right, how about Dan Campbell and those Lions? That was but I was very surprised. Number one, I was surprised to see the Lions as favorites on sportsbooks. Number one, but then I guess the sportsbooks knew, like they always do, that the Lions were going to win that one. They're 6-7. I mean, my question here is like, I don't know, are the Lions for real, right? Like, are they a real team that can, make it through? And it's crazy right now is like when you look at the standings, the Lions are above the Packers, and I mean that's just something that you really do not see often. It's been a really weird year for football, and I think that something like that is pretty cool to see for Lions fans, and it's a definitely a different year. But yeah, no, I think that they if they keep this up, right, and they can win out, and they're just a high powered offensive team. Their defense isn't that great. This was like a team of two bad defenses going up against each other, but their offense, like they play aggressive too, and I think that's a big thing. Like with Dan Campbell and the way that he plays the game, it's very an aggressive style of game, and they kept it close against the Bills too, which says a lot. I think it says a lot about how far the Lions have come this year, that they kept it that close against the Bills. They proved themselves with this win over the Vikings. I think that people were maybe questioning if they're a fluke or not with the Bills keeping it that close. I think, in my opinion, that they are, better than what people say they are. I think that like everyone wants to look at Dan Campbell as like the crazy dude with those funny sayings on the podium or whatever, but there is something to what they're doing, and again, it goes back to that idea of culture. But like Lions and like their team, the way that they're aggressive, like I just said, they go for it on fourth down with the fake punts. Everyone on the team is used. Like there's no ego there. Like even if you look at it, like when they iced this game, it was Penei Sewell that iced the game, and they threw it to him. Got the first down. Like that's everyone on this team has a belief in what Dan Campbell is trying to do. Right? Everyone is bought in. Like again, like with the Eagles, everyone's bought in. But with this team, you could kind of feel it. Like you could have sensed it boiling at the first, past couple weeks or whatever. Like they started off I think 1-6 or something, but then, here they are now, and it's just starting to really show itself that they're getting the reward for playing the way they've been playing and working hard and trying to work on the system that Dan Campbell has been trying to implement in this whole thing, and him and all the coaches too. It's not just him, but and you got to give credit to the players too. I think like you look at Jared Goff this game, 27 for 39, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns thrown. Like, I think maybe like this, he may not be even given enough credit for this run. I think like and it's not like he goes out there and he is Patrick Mahomes or he's becoming Josh Allen. Like he just makes the plays he needs to. He doesn't give up the ball, and he can even make some of those deep ball throws, but he just does what he needs to do, right? And that's sometimes all you could really ask for, right? Like that's what you need from your quarterback, and especially in a system, I guess, like Dan Campbell's or in this offensive scheme that they have drawn up. It's not like he is being asked to be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. He just needs to kind of do what he needs to do, take what the defense gives him. Don't try to be something you're not, right? He's not trying to always rush like Josh Allen or Lamar or whatever. Like he's just doing what he needs to do, and I think most importantly, it's just he's not giving up the football, right? Like I think you see that even with we just talked about a while ago, like even Derek Carr, right? Like, don't give up the ball. Don't give the team or give the other team, easy stops where and you turn it over. And I think that's something that's always been like kind of on the lines, like, especially in those close games towards the end. It's always been classic Lions football, unfortunately, to give it up or to blow the lead at the very last 2 minutes or whatever, but now they're not. Now they're closing games out, and in fact now they're winning games handedly. Right? You saw that with the Jags game, this game too. Like there's a strong sense of like confidence as they drive down the field, and it's also fun for the fans. I think it's fun to see the fans enjoy watching their team play week in and week out now. And and gain some success, right? I think they deserve it. I think that they put up with a lot of bullshit over the many years here. So I think it's good. I think it's good for them to be able to have this success. Now, on the other hand, the Vikings. So I don't really think that they played that terribly this game. Like from my opinion, that's what I think is interesting, is that they didn't really play terribly, but I do think their mistakes cost them. I think that they, that like Dalvin Cook fumble, right? That was that was a big mistake that they could have really capitalized there. They if they got that one, this game would have been closer. Kirk Cousins threw for what? He threw for 425 yards, two throwing touchdowns. Like, that should be enough to win a game, right? Over 400 yards and you don't win a game. Over 400 yards and two touchdowns and you don't win that game. That's that's a tough deal, right? That's something to have to deal with, and I think a big key factor here of them not winning the game was Dalvin Cook getting stopped, right? Again, talk about that fumble at the red zone. It's one of those where he is a big part of the success, and anytime you're able to stop players like that on a team, someone of Dalvin Cook's caliber on a team, you're gonna get success if you can stop people like him, and that's what the Lions did. And I think the Vikings, to their credit, they didn't really quit. Like, they kept coming back and coming at him. And Justin Jefferson had a great game. He had a strong game, 223 yards. And then there's also you look at T.J. Hawkinson, former Lion, now on the Vikings. He had a pretty good game, but there was that drop ball, and I think that to me, when I saw that one, it just seemed like it was the Lions' night, right? When you have a player like that who that's not a ball he drops. That is something that he will catch, I think, 9 times out of 10, and then the one that he doesn't, it's one of those games where it doesn't really go the Vikings' way, and we've seen that over the course of the season, that the Vikings found ways to win, found crazy ways to win, and I think that's where, like, a game like this one, I think they'll look back at it and make the adjustments, but I think they'll look back at this game and I think they'll see that they really came across a really hungry Lions team. But what the Vikings are probably gonna have to do moving forward is they're really gonna have to. They have to tighten up that defense, but they really are gonna have to, and from the offensive side of the ball, kind of simplify things a little bit. Again, it wasn't like they played a terrible game. Again, Goff threw for 400 plus yards, but they're gonna have to really capitalize on those situations where you have to come away with points. That you can't leave points on the table. I mean, look how even the Lions faked a punt, got themselves first down there, good long run. Those are things that, like, that's what the teams like the Lions. Well, I mean, I don't know if there's any other teams like the Lions, but that's a team like this Lions team that they do that. And the Vikings I feel like they were just thrown. They were thrown off, right? I think that they didn't expect what the Lions came at them with, and they're just gonna have to clean that up. I think the Vikings are gonna have to clean that up. I still think the Vikings are a good football team. I'm not sold on them in terms of being at the same level as, let's say, I mean, I know they beat the Bills, but I don't think that they're at the same level of. I don't have as much confidence in the Vikings as I do in the Chiefs or the Bills or the Eagles for sure. But but I don't think that they're as bad of a team as people may want to write them off as. I don't think that they, again, like, you watch their games and they can still find ways to win. But I just think that if they want to get more consistent success throughout and into the playoffs and make a deep run in the playoffs, it can't always be finding themselves in situations where they have to come back or they have to, really go in a shootout with the other team. And I feel like I want to see them get a couple, even to finish off the season. I want to see them get off a couple of in control of the game leads and in control of the game wins, So we'll see how that goes for them. And it should be exciting to see what the Lions do. It should be exciting to see how the Lions try to finish this one off. If they win out, that'd be great. That'd be kind of cool to see them make the playoffs for the first time in a long time. So congrats to them. Congrats to Dan Campbell. That was a fun game to watch, and they have a really, really exciting Detroit Lions squad. All right, now we're going to go touch on the Bills versus Jets game. So Jets come off with a big win, but man, I think the big story in this game is Mike White. That guy, he is, as they say, he is a dog. Took a huge hit, couple huge hits, came back a couple of times, and then had to be basically driven to the hospital right after the game. That's huge for Mike White. I know last year there was the whole Mike White thing, and didn't really get to finish off the season like he wanted to. So it's great to see him this year come back and come back in the way that he has. He's a guy. I mean, we'll see first, man, before I kind of crown him as one of those. But like, I think that it's big to see someone like him. I think definitely gained the respect of the locker room. He's gained the respect of, I think, people around the league now, just seeing how, how tough he is, but and also what he's been able to do with his Jets team, in these couple short games that he's had the reins to it. It'll be, that's a tough division. I think, Bills, I think, are going to win that division for sure, but it'll be interesting to see just because how close it is, it'll be interesting to see how it all ends up being. I think that the Jets, they're going to have to win out, which I think a couple of teams in that division are really going to have to win out to really secure their place, I think. I could be wrong on that. But the story there, though, again, it's Mike White. He's just a tough dude, and him being able to step up like he has is huge for the Jets. I think maybe they haven't found their future, which is maybe just for a different conversation. But like, now you have to make a decision between Mike White or Zach Wilson, and I think a decision already has been made, in my opinion. But at least by the public opinion, right? I think Mike White is by far in the public's eye the better choice here. But and I also think you see it on the field too, right? I think you see that Mike White just has control of the game. His passes are better. Like he's just got, I think the team plays better in front of him. He's got that confidence. He's got that moxie, or whatever you want to call it. And he'll gets hit, he gets sacked, gets right back up. And this was a Bills team that is not easy to play against at all. They are tough. Their defense is tough, and so to see him kind of do that was a good sign for Jets fans. I think that's something that they can kind of lean on for the rest of the season, and hopefully he can play the next game. We'll see how that goes for him. Now on the Bills, I think for them, I think that this was a get back on track game. I don't think, like, again, it wasn't a blowout, but it was, they were running away with it for a little bit there. Like in the fourth quarter, it was like 20-9. I think you got to give credit to Mike White, but I think that the Bills were really, really good this game, and I think that the Bills that I saw play in this game were the Bills that early on in the season, the first 4 or 5 weeks in the season, like that's the team that everyone was like expecting, and that's the expectation of this team. The past couple of weeks before, past couple, I think the month of November, December, or I'm sorry, the month of November, they struggled a little bit, and now that they're back, I think they're back to being the top contenders, and that defense, man, that defense is scary, right? Like they were able to get so much pressure on Mike White, bunch of sacks, and that one big hit. And I think in terms of just overall, what makes the Bills a scary team is that they have so much depth, right? I think that they have so much depth on that roster, and I mean Dawson Knox had a big game this game, and you didn't really hear about Stephon Diggs too much. I think that's what's actually kind of scary, and I say that almost in a good way for the Bills. Like, you didn't hear about other players as much, and they still won the game like handedly, I think, right? Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, they still have Nyheim Hines, they have James Cook, Devin Singletary. Like, these guys are, I think James Cook is a good weapon in terms of the rushing game. So is Singletary. I think that's, again, they have so many people on the roster that, like, the top teams right now, in my opinion, have that same trait where they're such depth teams, right? Eagles, Bills, Chiefs, those are the top ones that come into mind as far as like they have such strong depth in their squad that like that's what I think is going to carry them through and carry them into the playoffs and making that run for it. Yeah, I mean, I think that this game was a good game for the Bills. I think they needed to win in the way that they did. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the division is so close. The Jets for sure. They're going to need to win every game. With the way that the Dolphins have been kind of slipping a little bit, who knows what can happen in that division there. But overall, I think that the Bills still the Bills, and it was a good sign for the Jets, especially a good sign for the future of the Jets organization if they can keep Mike White there, keep him in the front under center. Yeah, I think that was a great game, and he toughed it out. I think the Jets have a good guy at QB. He's tough, and he definitely wants to be there. So he's got the respect of a lot of people now. So that's good on them. All right, quickly taking a look around in the league quickly taking a look around the league with other news and other things happening with Week 14. The Bucks kind of fell badly to the 49ers. Oh, as a Brady fan, this game really sucked to watch. This was one of those games too where like it's the same issues I think that have plagued the Bucks for basically this whole season. It's just like there's so much inconsistency within their game, right? Like Brady doesn't make some of the best passes, but then offensive holding, I mean, there's just so many flags there. Defense has not been playing well. They've been getting burned on a lot of plays, and I mean, for sure, like the Niners clearly were the favorites in this game, and it showed. Best defense in the league. Man, like they really took control of this game. And of course, the big story here was Brock Purdy. A lot of credit to this guy. I mean, it's, first start, and the way he came out like he did with his parents in the stands, and he was able to put up, I don't know how many before the first half. It was like 35-0 or 35 to, I don't know what it was, 28-0 in the first half or something. That was great. That must have been really cool for him to have pulled that off. But what's funny is like, you look at the stat line here, and like Brady had 253 yards, and he had a touchdown throw, and Purdy only had 185 yards. He threw for 2 touchdowns, but like that's how the Niners are, right? Like they got Christian McCaffrey, cheat code for the Niners, and then you got Ayuk, Debo Samuel, all these guys, and I think Debo, unfortunately, terrible injury. We'll see how he feels, in the coming weeks or whatever. But you got McCaffrey, Kittle, Ray McLeod. These guys are good weapons for the Niners. And on the other hand, you got the Buccaneers, who I think they're just plagued with like injury, but also not having a consistent group of guys going out there every week. And now there's with 4 weeks left in the season, they finally have, I guess, same group of guys over the past couple weeks, and now you're trying to get into the same rhythm with each other, and Evans and Brady are not connecting on a bunch of throws, and a lot of flags by the defense. It's been a tough season for the Bucs. Definitely not the way that they expected to go. I think that it's disappointing. Again, as a Bucs fan, to see how this is panning out. Again, they're still first in their division, which is very weird. If they make the playoffs, which I think they are going to make the playoffs, but unless they just lose out every game, I guess. But if they make the playoffs, I don't really see them going far. It would be a great surprise if they do, but I just don't see them going far. I think the next game against the Bengals is huge. Bengals are really coming off of, speaking of the Bengals, they're coming off of a great win against the Browns, and finally Joey B beats the Browns. But yeah, I think I would really like to see the Bucs at least just get a good game against the Bengals and look like they're building towards something, because after that they got the Cardinals with no Kyler Murray, terrible injury. But like if they could just get a good game going against the Bengals. I think the Bucks have a good can somewhat lead into a good run into the playoffs maybe, but I don't think they're going far, unfortunately. But yeah, on the other hand of that, the Niners, they look great. I think Purdy's the guy. He is a guy too. He just the confidence that he had, it says a lot, and I think it's going to be really telling of what happens moving forward. The the Niners go against the Seahawks Thursday Night Football. The Packers need the Seahawks to lose, so they really need to root for the Niners here. But hopefully they can take care of business. Hopefully the Niners can take care of business. I think that this could be a scary game if they come out flat. If the Niners come out flat, I think a little seed of doubt might creep in into the Niners if Brock Purdy, after coming off of all this momentum and all this fanfare and a great win against the greatest of all time and a great game by McCaffrey and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden they come out against the Seahawks, and if they lose the game, oof, that could be a big blow to their confidence. And all of a sudden now people are questioning, like, all right, well, like, can this team even keep continuing? Like, well, how long is Jimmy G coming back? Is the confidence of Brock Purdy going to be shaken a little bit? But I don't think, I think given what he's gone through and on his way to getting here, I don't think that, even if they do have somewhat of a bad game, I don't think that Brock Purdy is going to be shaken up at all. I think he's just going to go back to work, and so are the Niners, and they're still in a good spot. Everyone's in a good spot there. So, yeah, should be interesting, the game for tomorrow. Interesting to see how the Seahawks do against the Niners. But in other news here, again, the Bengals able to finally get a win against the Browns. That's good for them. That's good for Joey Burrow. I think that they're starting now to look like a team that they were last year. It's one of those things where playoff teams like that, like, they get hot at the right moments, and sometimes once you get hot at the right moment, you just make a run, right? And you just never know. Speaking of a team that's not getting hot, though, the Titans lose to the Jaguars. I mean, that one was very interesting. I think it's similar to the Raiders, to me at least. My personal thought process as that game was going on was like, all right, they're going to get it. They're going to get it. Titans are going to get back in this, or they're going to run away with this or whatever. And I think once Derrick Henry fumbled the ball, he got hit really hard, good hit. I got hit, and then Jaguars took it. Once that happened, then I was kind of like, okay, like this may actually happen where the Jaguars take this game, and they did, right, to their credit. You gotta credit the Jags, credit Trevor Lawrence. They played a really good game, but I mean, what's happened with the Titans now? It's just, they're still in a good spot in terms of standings and all that kind of stuff. They're still first, but they've lost 3 games now, right? Like, that's 3 in a row, and like, how do they come back from that? Like, moving forward, it's gonna keep getting tougher for them. They play the Chargers next, who came off of a huge win. It's one of those things where they got to get it together. That division, the Jaguars are kind of creeping up right behind them. That division is also, I think, somewhat close. But I think Titans still kind of have a pretty large lead in that division, though. But like, if Titans don't get some wins strung together here, maybe not in terms of the division, but when they make it in the playoffs, like, they're going to be in trouble. Right? Another early exit that could be tough for them to deal with. With the games against the Jags, like, you need those wins. Didn't happen for them. But we'll see how they regroup next week, or this upcoming weekend. I think in other news too. So big news with with the Chiefs and the Broncos. Chiefs win, but tough news for the Broncos is Russell Wilson is out. He got driven to the ground. He was out of it. Right. That was scary to watch. I think that was something where, like, it's unfortunate because in that game they were coming back, and you started to see, like, Russell Wilson scrambling, running like that. That's what made him the Russ that everyone knows, or that everyone at least knew. That's what made him, the great player that he was known for. And when he starts to do that now, fortunately comes across this injury, and he gets driven to the ground like that, and he was out. And you hate to see that, really. I mean, regardless of whether it's Russ and all that, everything happening with him, you just really hate to see like him getting hurt in the way that he did. Hopefully he's okay, and hopefully it's one of those things that the coming weeks and he gets significantly better. But yeah, I think that the Broncos are just like, they're in a tough spot. Like, what do they do next? Like, what's next for them? With the I think at this point it's probably off season time, right? I think it's just like, what's the plan, and how is that new ownership going to deal with this? Tough deal for them in that sense. Moving forward now, again, another injury. Kyler Murray, that one's a big injury. I think that one's a very big injury given the deal in place. Somewhere in terms of just like the large deal in place, like Russell. Kyler, he injures his ACL, tears his ACL, and has to go through a rehab process. And is this actually going to be healed by the beginning of next season, right? We're already deep into this season. These injuries normally take year to heal, and it's not a quick fix, right? There's a lot of rehab going to go into this, and the biggest question too is like, once he does come back, what kind of player is he going to be when he comes back, right? Because he's a guy that heavily relies on his movement, heavily relies on his rushing game and his ability to scramble in that pocket. That's the allure of Kyler, right? Like, of Kyler Murray. That's the allure of what he's able to do, is escape the pocket and escape people and escape tackles and things like that. And if he can't do that, or if he doesn't feel confident in his ability to do that, does that change the entire dynamic of who he is as a quarterback? Is he going to have to adjust and really work on his throwing game? And again, he's not the biggest dude on the field, so like, it's not like he can sit back and just throw in the pocket all the time, because he's going to get stopped and blocked that way. So that's a tough situation for him. Again, same thing. Like, wish the absolute best for his healing and his injury. And I think the Cardinals are going to have to figure out what to do next with who's under center, at least for the rest of the season. Cliff Kingsbury's got a lot to figure out on that front. But that's, again, tough situation for them, and we'll see how they do. I think right now in that division, Seahawks have a really good chance of, if they just try to win out and try to make they themselves try to make a run for it. But yeah, I mean, big injuries this weekend. It was a tough weekend for injuries like that. It's been a tough couple of weeks, honestly, with injuries. I don't know what's going on. It may be just because it's late in the season, but it's been rough. That's football. That's the game. It's dangerous, and it's one of those things where you just hope that by this point in the season, especially with the top teams, everyone can stay healthy, right? And you don't need to be in there all the time. If you don't need, if it's not needed, if that's why, like, Brock Purdy left the game. You don't need to risk getting injured when you're up by that much. So we'll look forward to the next week, week 15. Tomorrow, Niners against the Seahawks. That's going to be a good game. Again, like I mentioned, the Seahawks or the Niners, if they win, the Packers are still in it. If not, it's going to be really difficult for the Packers to get back in this game, or it's back in the playoff hunt. A lot of different things have to happen. But I think tomorrow, with the reemergence or the emergence of Brock Purdy, I think what we can expect is, I don't think Deebo Samuel's going to be there. That even though his injury wasn't as bad as feared, I don't think that he will be. I don't think he'll be in the game. I think everyone's hoping that he can make it back for the playoffs, which is good. But I think we're going to see a lot of Christian McCaffrey. I think we're going to be seeing a good amount of, run game, you know, hopefully similar to what we saw against the Bucks. But I don't think Brock Purdy has to be Superman here. I think that the Niners have to really, stay healthy. But I think in terms of their offensive production, I'm expecting a lot from Ayuk. Again, Kittle, McCaffrey. I think Kittle is going to have to start heating up a little bit, and not that he hasn't all season, but I think this is a good opportunity for him to step up a bunch. I mean, Ray McLeod, good opportunity for him. Juszczyk, that's again, another strong depth team with the Niners. So expect that from them, and with the Seahawks, I think that they, losing to the Panthers, which was surprising. I mean, not sure what really happened there. It's one of those things where I thought the Seahawks would be able to come away with that one. The Seahawks are just going to have to, get back to the game. Use Marquise Goodwin, DK Metcalf. They're going to have big games. Tyler Lockett. And I think their defense is going to have to be able to hold off the Niners, right? I think it's going to be a battle of, like, how long can the Seahawks hang in there, right? Because I just think the Niners defense is so good that they're going to be able to stop Geno Smith and that offense. So the defense of the Seahawks is just going to have to be able to hold off the Niners, and hopefully, Geno and that offense could get a couple good drives in there, get some points. I don't see this being a high scoring game. Maybe, actually, I shouldn't say that, but like historically with Thursday night games, I don't know how much of a high scoring game this could be. But I do think that the Niners will probably take this one. That could be, it could be tough for the Seahawks to overcome that defense. I mean, that is an all-star, high caliber defense that the Niners have. So Seahawks have their work cut out for them for sure. So that's it for this week on Aledius Sports Talk. After just, I'll catch you guys next week. We'll talk about what's happening at week 15. Hopefully I can also talk about different things happening in even the hockey world. I know, but right now we're in the thick of it. We're in the playoff hunt for the NFL. So this is where a bunch of the content's going to be coming from. But thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, you can give me a follow on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, on YouTube here. Subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys later.